we have been looking at classic checkmating patterns, one of which is Greco's mate, in which a king that's been trapped in a corner has a file opened to it by a sacrifice, and then checkmated. The first example game we looked at that includes the Greco pattern is the famous miniature Anderson-Lang, Breslau 1859, and I plan to introduce Fox Capablanca, New York 1906 next. But I just discovered this most lovely example that was played quite recently. Dutch international master Willy Hendricks shared this game from Hastings 2006 with the magazine Shock News. This is a typical and logical plan for black against the bishop's opening, but if this were really good, the bishop's opening would have gone out of business hundreds of years ago. In practice, when black rushes to quickly play c6 and d5, his e5 pawn becomes too weak in the middle game. It doesn't have much support already, and when white eventually opens the e-file with ed plus rook e1, then it's seen that the d3 pawn hinders the e pawn's advance, and the e5 pawn becomes most tenuous. Bishop b4 seems like a real slip, because after black trades on d2, he's swapping a bishop that's moved twice for a bishop that's only moved once, and the loss of time for black finds white 2 developing moves ahead. White chose queen d2 rather than knight b d2 because the queen knight will prefer its natural square of c3, white thinks. It's hard to tell if black was just making all this up, or if this was some home cooking on black's part, because he plays the next couple moves in real gambit style, even though he's behind in time. White's capture on e5 introduces another threat to capture on f7. Black thought that threat big enough to leave his e4 pawn hanging. Knight e4, then queen d8, rook d8, and the f7 pawn is hanging again. But like I said, perhaps black had planned this gambit-like play in advance. Queen e7 presses down on an open file with a whole lot of white targets on it, while rook d8 is prepared to hit another big white target. White played the part of the acceptor of the gambit. Queen f4 sidesteps the threat on the d-file while holding all the white loot intact on the e-file. Then knight h5 hopes to separate the e5 knight from its protector on f4. And when white plays bishop f7, it looks like white can be in such serious trouble after king h8, because the queen is attacked. The bishop can't capture on h5 because the bishop is pinned, and after the queen is separated from the knight is hanging. But Hendricks called white's next move the most beautiful move he ever had a chance to play. he didn't really get to play this because on Black's 11th move, Spaten actually played Rook F7. White eventually won, but from an artistic standpoint, White would have been much, much happier had Black played King H8, leaving 1, 2, 3 white pieces in danger, because that would have enabled Hendricks to play the beautiful Queen G3. That breaks the pin on the bishop, so bishop H5 is threatened now. And if Black carries out his threat of capturing the white queen, Greco's mate follows by knight G6 plus HG. So while international master Hendricks could only deliver Greco's checkmate in a note, so did the legendary world champion Capablanca in Fox Capablanca, New York, 1906. Coming next on the Scobar Chess Channel.